So most Trump supporters say that they don't watch the news, and yet they parrot the same talking points. So how do people who proudly reject journalism claim to be the most informed? Welcome back to Political Critical Thinking. I'm Stephanie Beninati. Please like and subscribe. Today we're going to continue our talk on the Powell Memo and the blueprint for corporate control. So the Powell Memo was written by Lewis F. Powell Jr. in 1971 before being appointed to the Supreme Court by Nixon. We need to identify the four key components to the Powell Memo. The first one was to take over the universities. The second one was to take over the media. Think Fox News, Newsmax, etc. Take over politics, especially the courts. And finally, the federal government agencies. The goal? To protect corporate power by reshaping public opinion and manipulating the democratic systems. So how do we get from regulation to corporate media to where we are today, a monopoly? Well, before Reagan, most of the media was locally owned, and it had community accountability. So one of the things that Reagan did, I like to call Reagan our deregulator-in-chief. So our deregulator-in-chief, Reagan killed the fairness doctrine in 1987, opening the floodgates. Since then, mega corporations own nearly all the U.S. media. Right now, corporate-controlled outlets are acting neutral while they're pushing right-leaning narratives and silencing their critics. They always say that the government should be run as a business. But this is a privatization scam. This ideology is pushed by corporate media oligarchs, the right-leaning corporate like Fox News. So the government is supposed to serve the people, let's be clear, not shareholders. Privatization lowers transparency, which we're seeing today, less accountability, and focuses on profit, not the public interest. Is there any corporation that works for its employees? No, it works for itself to enrich itself, and it works to enrich its stockholders. So that's exactly what authoritarian governments look like. When you try to replace a democratic government with a business model, what you're really saying is you want to replace a democracy with authoritarianism. And authoritarianism, by nature, are extremely corrupt. They are there to enrich themselves and the people around them, just like a business. And what I'd like you to think about is Donald Trump is a serial business failure. With all of his bankruptcies, he is the poster child for why you do not want to run a government like a business. Most businesses fail. The goal for a business is to grow, is to be big. You don't want the government to grow and be big. You want smaller government. Democrats actually believe in smaller government, believe it or not. So for all of those who hate real journalism, think about what the right media has been pushing, whether you watch it or not. The narrative has been the elites are the problem, right? But who's really the elite? The right's billionaire hypocrisy is so deep that MAGA says they hate the elites, yet worship billionaires. Most GOP leaders were born wealthy and have been insulated from hardships. Meanwhile, the Democratic leaders, Biden, Harris, Obama, even the Clintons, largely come from working class families. They literally pulled themselves up from their bootstraps. And you can see that in their legislation. Their legislation is largely for the working people, for the people of America, to enrich their lives, while the right is all about enriching corporations. This isn't my opinion. This is simply going back and looking at legislation. Who does that legislation protect? And besides legislation, to prove my point, just look at what the right wing hates. They hate labor unions. They hate public education. They hate journalism. They hate the federal government. These are the four specific tenets that the Powell Memo talked about controlling in 1971. Which, by the way, in 1973, the Powell Memo gave birth to the Heritage Foundation and many other conservative think tanks. That's how powerful it was. And they spent the last 50 plus years implementing these things. And that is why when you look at the right wing, they hate all the things that the Powell Memo tells them that they need to control. And the reason they want to turn people against these institutions is because these institutions protect you and me. And Republicans want to break them, discredit them, and sell them off to the highest bidder, which are generally their wealthy donors. So this I don't watch the news is not a flex. People boast about being uninformed as if it's a virtue. But understand, Republicans destroyed the trust in the media by using the media empire that they built and then filled that vacuum with rage bait YouTubers, radio cranks, and propaganda outlets. So it's important to understand that journalists, they are the real watchdogs. Their work is fact-checked multiple times to survive libel laws. This is the battle that Democrats were dealing with right now. It's going to be information versus indoctrination. That is why Democrats and pro-democracy people who are out there fighting the good fight, we need to get smarter on our history. We need to understand civil rights movement and how the civil rights movement prompted all of this, how people have been indoctrinated to hate the federal government, Department of Education, labor unions, how they've been indoctrinated to want to tear down every institution that protects them, like the Consumer Protection Agency. It's up to you and me. So let's do what we can, as small or as big as we can muster up. Because right now, more than ever, this is a battle. It's information versus indoctrination. It's journalism versus propaganda, and it's people versus profit. What side are you going to be on?